For years, if you talked about fighter jets, the big names always came up. You had the American F-16s and F-35s, powerful, expensive, and everywhere. Then there were the massive Russian Sukhois, built to be big and scary. And in the middle of all this, a small country, with a lot of snow and excellent meatballs, Sweden built its own jet. They called it the Saab Gripen. For a very long time, most of the world's military experts just sort of shrugged. It was smaller. It had only one engine. It didn't have the earth-shattering reputation of its American or Russian rivals. It was seen as a boutique choice, a bit of an oddity for countries that couldn't afford the real stuff. The problem was one of perception. In the world of military hardware, bigger is often seen as better. A jet with two enormous engines must surely be more powerful than a jet with one. A plane that costs hundreds of millions of dollars must be more capable than one that is famously affordable. The Gripen was designed with a completely different philosophy in mind, one born from Sweden's unique position. They weren't trying to build a plane to project power across the globe. They were building a clever, nimble, and cost-effective machine to defend their own homeland against a much larger aggressor. This made it seem less impressive on a stat sheet, and so it was largely ignored by the big players on the world stage. This thinking led many to dismiss the Gripen as a light fighter, not in the same league as the heavy hitters. It was like bringing a rally car to a drag race. People were looking at raw power and straight-line speed, not agility or clever engineering. The Americans had a massive military-industrial complex churning out thousands of jets. The Swedes had Saab, a company that also makes cars and trucks. It just didn't seem serious. The Gripen was the quiet, sensible kid in a classroom full of loud, boisterous bullies. No one really paid it much attention, assuming it would never amount to much when things got properly serious. How wrong they were. This lack of understanding of the Gripen's core purpose meant that for decades its true genius was overlooked. The world was focused on Cold War-era ideas of massive air forces clashing in the skies. But warfare was changing. The need for expensive Hangar Queen jets that required perfect runways and an army of technicians was becoming a liability. The Swedes, it turned out, weren't just building a cheaper jet. They were building a smarter one, perfectly suited for a future that nobody else seemed to see coming. The little jet from the north was about to have its day. So what makes this Swedish machine so special? Well, for a start, it was designed to be operated by a handful of conscripts in the middle of a frozen forest. Seriously, one of the Gripen's most brilliant features is its ability to land and take off from very short, improvised runways. We're not talking about perfectly smooth, purpose-built military airfields. We're talking about sections of ordinary public roads. This is a crucial feature for a country like Sweden, which could see its main air bases destroyed in the first few hours of a conflict. The Gripen can simply scatter, hiding in plain sight and operating from anywhere. This incredible flexibility is matched by its ease of maintenance. A typical modern fighter jet is a delicate, temperamental beast. It needs a massive ground crew, specialized tools, and hours of work between flights. The Gripen, on the other hand, is more like a Volvo. It's built to be tough and easy to fix. A small team of technicians with minimal training can refuel and rearm a Gripen in less than 10 minutes. This means it can get back into the fight almost immediately, a concept known as high operational tempo. While other more complex jets are still being serviced, a Gripen can have already completed another mission. The cockpit and its systems are also a masterclass in clever, user-friendly design. Saab focused on what they call sensor fusion. The Gripen takes information from its advanced radar, infrared sensors, and data links from other planes and ground stations and presents it all to the pilot on one simple, easy-to-read display. This reduces the pilot's workload, allowing them to focus on the mission rather than trying to interpret data from a dozen different screens. It's a fighter jet designed with the human in mind, making a very complex job much, much simpler. This smart, efficient approach is at the very heart of the Gripen's design. All of this adds up to a jet that is not only capable, but also incredibly cheap to operate. The cost per hour flying for a Gripen is a fraction of that of its bigger American and European rivals. For smaller nations, this is a game changer. They can afford to buy the jets, fly them regularly to keep their pilots sharp, and maintain them without bankrupting their defense budget. The Gripen proves that you don't need the most expensive gold-plated solution to be effective. Sometimes, clever, practical, and efficient design is what really wins the day. It's the smart choice for a modern Air Force. For a long time, the Gripen's unique selling points were just theories. Interesting, yes, but unproven in the crucible of modern conflict. Then in 2022, Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and suddenly everything changed. The war in Ukraine became a brutal real-world test for military hardware and strategy. It quickly became clear that large centralized air bases were incredibly vulnerable to long-range missile strikes. A country could see its entire air force destroyed on the ground before it ever had a chance to fight. And suddenly, everyone remembered the Swedish jet that could operate from a road. Military analysts, particularly those at the prestigious Royal United Services Institute, began to look at the situation with fresh eyes. In a widely cited report, they declared the Gripen was by far the most suitable candidate among Western jets for Ukraine. Its ability to operate from dispersed, hidden locations was the perfect counter to the Russian threat. Its low maintenance needs meant it could be kept flying with limited resources. Its advanced electronic warfare systems were seen as crucial for surviving in the contested airspace over Ukraine. The very features that once made the Gripen seem like a niche product were now its greatest strengths. This shift in perception was dramatic. The Gripen was no longer the underdog. It was the smart, pragmatic solution. The conversation around supplying jets to Ukraine began to include the Gripen as a top contender. Sweden, while not immediately sending the jets, began preparing for a potential transfer, donating spare parts and support equipment to lay the groundwork. The war had provided the ultimate proof of concept for Saab's design philosophy. The world was now seeing the Gripen not for what it wasn't, a big, heavy brawler, but for what it was, a nimble, survivable, and deadly intelligent fighter jet. The conflict also highlighted the importance of cost. As Western nations supplied Ukraine with billions of dollars in aid, the Gripen's low operational cost became another major selling point. It represented a sustainable way for a nation to build and maintain credible air power without an astronomical price tag. The war forced a global reevaluation of what makes a fighter jet effective in the 21st century. Raw power was important, but survivability, adaptability, and efficiency were paramount. In this new reality, the Saab Gripen wasn't just a good option. It was arguably the perfect one. The seismic shift in European security caused by the war in Ukraine had another profound effect. It pushed historically neutral Sweden to join NATO. In March 2024, Sweden officially became the 32nd member of the alliance. This move was monumental. It fundamentally changed the security landscape of Northern Europe, effectively turning the Baltic Sea into a NATO lake. And at the heart of Sweden's contribution to the alliance is its impressive fleet of Gripen fighters. The jet designed to defend Sweden alone was now a key asset for the collective defense of all NATO members. As a new member, Sweden is bolstering its own forces, planning to expand its air force to 120 Gripen jets, including the new, more advanced Gripen E model. This makes the Swedish Air Force one of the most capable in the region, and its fleet of Gripens provides NATO with a unique and valuable capability. Their ability to operate from austere locations strengthens the alliance's resilience in the Baltic region, making it much harder for an adversary like Russia to achieve air superiority. The Gripen is now fully integrated into NATO's command structure, a frontline defender for the entire alliance. However, the Gripen story is not without its challenges, particularly when it comes to exports. Despite being a Swedish marvel, the jet relies on critical components from other countries, most notably its engine, which is made by the American company General Electric. This means any sale of the Gripen to a new country is subject to U.S. export regulations. Washington effectively holds a veto over who can buy Sweden's jet. This became painfully clear in early 2025 when a deal to sell Gripens to Colombia fell apart after the U.S. signaled it would not approve the engine transfer, favoring its own F-16 instead. This dependency on American parts creates a significant hurdle for Saab. It means that even with a superior product, politics can stand in the way of a sale. For countries looking to buy the Gripen to gain strategic independence, this is a major drawback. Nevertheless, the Gripen has transformed from a misunderstood outsider to a respected and vital instrument of power. From the forests of Sweden to the front lines of NATO, the plucky jet has proven that clever design and pragmatic thinking can indeed shock the world and earn a place among